By Mastery Rank 10, there were still a lot of things in Warframe that I didn't fully understand. And while I did build and play with the Paris Prime, I don't feel I gave it an actual chance. Today, I'm gonna change that. Hey guys, hello and welcome back. As always, my name is Lazar, and we're gonna be diving deeper into this Mastery Rank 10 primary weapon. I'm gonna be showcasing a couple of builds, something cheap and affordable, something anybody can build, but we also have an end-game setup with a Riven. That being said though, please keep in mind that my builds and guides follow a new player-friendly approach, simply because there's a lot of info here and I want anybody watching to understand how the weapon functions and how it should be built. So I will be doing a whole lot of explaining, things that for a veteran player might seem obvious. If that is the case for you, then please skip ahead or have a bit of patience. And with that out of the way, let's jump into the Paris Prime. Let's begin by quickly taking a look at how the weapon handles without any mods equipped, and for that I'm simply going to be taking a couple of free shots. The Paris Prime is a pretty standard everyday bow in the sense that it doesn't have anything special to it. You simply fire one arrow and the arrow has a drop off in an arc like that. I don't know if you can pick that one up, but you also have a fair bit of travel time on the arrow as well. So depending on the distance between you and your target, you might want to aim slightly above enemies' heads, and of course you might want to lead them as well. Oh, and if the look of my Paris Prime kind of threw you off, this is just a skin. I believe this is called the Dryad skin. Yes, the Bow Dryad skin, and you can get this one by purchasing the Deluxe Oberon pack. Honestly, I only purchased that pack because of this bow skin. Now moving on to stats and all whatnot, my mod capacity is 60 out of 60, and if your Paris Prime has only 30 out of 30, jump into actions and install the Oro King Catalyst. Now this one will double your mod capacity, and you can find one from invasions, alerts, or from the daily sortie, and you can also pay 20 plat to have one installed. Keep an eye out after dev streams, because usually that's when we get an alert or two with more rare items. Mental note, buy more Forma. And speaking of Forma, my bow has been formatted a total of 5 times, and this was done only for the purpose of testing. For the weapon build I'm recommending you guys, you can get away with free. Simply add free V symbols or Madurai. The accuracy isn't anything special. This is pretty much standard when it comes to bow, 16.7, a charge rate of 0.5, which is decent, critical chance of 45% high, and a crit multi of 2.0x. Now, from what I know, only the Dread when it comes to bows has a higher critical chance than the Paris Prime. A magazine of 1, of course it is silent, and we got default punch through on the weapon, 3.0 meters, absolutely fantastic. Reload of 0.7. Now keep in mind that the reload on bows means the speed at which you draw another arrow from the quiver. Riven disposition of 3 out of 5, which is right smack in the middle, which means that the Rivens will be decent for the most part. A status chance of 20%, which is not bad, definitely, but considering how many shots you're getting off per second or per minute, however you want to measure that one, it's not exactly fantastic. We got impact, puncture, and slash, and this is a puncture-based weapon. Now, puncture will deal extra damage to heavily armored targets, but on a status proc it'll simply reduce the damage that enemy deals to you, so that can be a benefit or not depending on the level of content that you're doing. Now let's talk about build possibilities for the Paris Prime, and I went on ahead and equipped the mandatory mods. We got damage with Serration, multi-shot with Split Chamber and Vigilante Armaments, and we got critical chance and critical damage through Point Strike and Vital Sense. Vigilante Armaments is not the kind of mod that I would call mandatory, however, because currently in Warframe multi-shot is a rather big deal, Vigilante Armaments finds its way onto many primary builds. Take a look at it this way, 60% multi-shot from Vigilante Armaments and 90% from Split Chamber, so it's not a huge difference. Also, for Vigilante Armaments you get the benefit of the set, 5% chance to enhance critical hits from primary weapons. And if you don't fully understand yet how critical chance or critical damage works in Warframe, why I go over 100% critical chance and why it's worth it, link in the cards right now. Like most mechanics in Warframe, it shouldn't really be taken at face value, and it's a bit more deeper than that. Basically, per shot, because I already have 100+% chance to crit, all of my arrows have a 5% chance at going to the next level of crits. Therefore, it will be dealing a whole lot more damage as the critical multiplier will be increasing. What we do next will depend on what kind of direction you want your weapon to take, but there is one mod, in this case in particular, that will be the highest value after Point Strike, and that one, sadly for me, is called Hunter Munitions. 30% chance to apply slash on critical hit, and I'm already critical hitting with all of my arrows, 112.5% critical chance. Take a look at it another way. I got a 12.5% chance per shot to get an orange crit, and all of my arrows will be yellow crits at the very least, and I can also add the bonus from Vigilante Armaments on top of that. So already I am capable of red critting with a setup such as this. It is a very small chance, but it can happen. Hunter Munitions currently in Warframe is an extremely overpowered mod, as basically if your primary weapons can crit, then it should have Hunter Munitions if it has a decent chance to crit. The next two mods will depend entirely on what you want to do with the weapon. You can go into elemental damage, for example, or you can increase the critical chance and critical damage and just play into slash. Let's try a couple of setups. First, we're going to be going to corrosive. Now, corrosive damage is fantastic when it comes to heavily armored targets. On a status proc, it will reduce the maximum armor that enemy has, so therefore, your subsequent shots will be dealing more and more damage. Corrosive also has a 75% damage bonus versus ferrite armor, which is one of the two armor types you find on Grineer units. The other type is alloy, which is weak to radiation damage. First, we're going to try it with corrosive, as we are going to be hitting level 100 plus corrupted heavy gunners. Electricity through Stormbringer or high voltage. I'm going to encourage the use of the 60/60 mods, and I'll explain why that is a tad later. High voltage, unfortunately, can be a bit difficult to get, but you can farm this one from the game. The mission is called Naelgar on the planet Eris. You gotta find all the free secret caches, then upon extraction, 5% chance of getting this one or Shell Shock. Being totally honest, the grind on Naelgar is absolutely crap. But you can also buy it from the trade chat for about 40 to 50 plat. It's not very cheap, but you will need it eventually. When it comes to Toxin, this one is a lot cheaper and easier to obtain automatically. Malignant 4, 60% Toxin and 60% status chance, and you can farm this one from Corrupted Vor in the Void. Now, if you don't have high voltage, forget about it and simply use the 90% mod Stormbringer, like so. Actually, we're gonna go like this. Let's take a look at the damage on my weapon right now. I got the impact, puncture, and slash, which was increased by all the multi-shot I slapped on the weapon, and of course from serration as well. And I got corrosive, the elemental combo I made. When taking a look at all this damage and trying to figure out exactly what is the proc priority, you gotta keep in mind the golden rule in Warframe. The physical types, impact, puncture, and slash, have a 4 times greater chance at proccing over elemental types such as corrosive. So when you're looking at these values for IPS, try to multiply them visually times 4 so you understand the proc value. In fact, my puncture is way higher than my corrosive. Slash is at 1.2k for example, so the proc priority right now is puncture, followed by corrosive, slash, and impact. And this is the initial build I'm going to be recommending to you guys. Nothing here is expensive, and outside of serration, which costs a whole lot of endo to max out, none of these mods will suck a lot of endo, so by all intents and purposes this should be a pretty cheap and accessible build. We're gonna be spawning in level 120 corrupted heavy gunners and some guys from Fortuna, because new content, everybody's down on Fortuna, Orvel is doing stuff. And I'm gonna be taking a couple of shots at this guy's head. As you can see, because of the multi-shot I have on the weapon, sometimes I hit my target 3 times and sometimes I hit my target only twice. That is because I have 150% multi-shot on the weapon. 150% multi-shot means that I have a guaranteed second arrow out of the chamber, or better said, out of the bow, and a 50% chance at a third arrow. If you take a look at my procs on the target, you will see that I'm not really proccing all that much corrosive, and I'm not even proccing all that much slash. Even though I have a 100% plus crit chance right now on the bow, I'm simply not shooting all that many arrows, so sometimes, of course, Corpus. Corpus are really not to be taken all that serious when it comes to the damage you need to deal with them. I would suggest you deal with them with crowd control abilities, as they can be a bit of a bother. As you can see, the bow does require 4 to 5 hits to take out one of these high level targets, and I'm not getting a whole lot of slash procs, and I'm not getting a lot of corrosive procs on my targets either, again because I'm simply not firing all that many projectiles. As for the impact damage itself, even with this amount of corrosive on the weapon, look at that red grid, what I was talking about earlier. Even with corrosive on the weapon, which will be dealing 75% more damage to these targets, I'm still not doing all that much. What I can do is try to play further into slash, and instead of corrosive damage, go for the viral elemental combo. Now, viral currently in Warframe is absolutely fantastic, as it will perform well or great depending on the circumstance. Viral on a status proc will be reducing the maximum health of a target to 50%, so for that limited amount of time, as viral stays on the target, your slashes are kinda dealing double damage. But as you saw there, I'm not really getting all that many procs, so what I will do is drop Stormbringer and add the cold mod. 60-60, of course, rhyme rounds. I want to increase my status chance as well so I get more consistent procs on my target. The problem with an approach such as this, taking the 60 over the 90 in the case of the Paris Prime, is basically you win one thing but lose another. If I had the 90% mod in here, yes, my status chance would be lower. However, the proc value of viral would be higher. So it's a trade-off. Which is better? Exactly the 60-60 mods in this case, if you want consistent viral procs on your target. And even like this, you will see that you still don't get a whole lot of consistency, which is why normally I don't really like to play with viral on both, because many times my targets die before I even see a viral effect on them, so there is that to take into account. I hit my target, I got a puncture proc and a slash proc. There we go, slash again, no viral on the target. Actually, I believe the slashes are capable of taking out the target, maybe? No, one more. There we go, we got viral proc on the target. That was the 4th bow, I believe. Not very consistent, is it? Not when it comes to slash and not when it comes to viral apps. 3rd arrow, there we go. Slash. It took 5 arrows to get the viral elemental combo. Now make no mistake, mathematically speaking, the bow right now is actually capable of one-shotting these high-level targets, but in order for that to happen, the planets must align. You must get the right procs at the right time. As you can see, you can kill your target through slashes long before viral gets a chance to be applied. So if I can't really trust my procs, what can I do? I can go further into slash and forget about viral or corrosive altogether. But in order to do that, to make the quote-unquote maximum damage build and all whatnot, I'm gonna have to go to more expensive mods, which is what I usually don't like. Take a look at that. That was one shot on the target. Viral proc and a slash. Will it be a one shot? No, so close, yet so far away. Again, mathematically speaking, the bow could one shot a target, but the planets will not align all that often. I don't like builds like this, honestly. I don't like inconsistencies in my weapon, and I don't go for once in a full moon it did great. So we're gonna drop our elemental combo all together, and we're gonna go for more critical chance and critical damage. Sorry about this, but we gotta go to Argon Scope. Now, adding Argon Scope on the weapon will give me more orange crits and a higher possibility at a red crit as well, or multiple red crits. And we're also going to be adding bladed rounds. Now this will give you critical damage 120%. Now that is definitely a huge deal. It's the same amount as Vital Sense. Just keep in mind that bladed rounds is an on-kill effect. On-kill effects is something I don't particularly like in Warframe, but in an ordinary average everyday missions you're going to be getting plenty of kills outside of a boss fight, right? If there are no ads or anything. So definitely this is a very, very powerful mod. And we're going to be testing the weapon out like this. Same targets as before, of course. Keep in mind that this being a crit weapon, it is very important to go for headshots because how critical multipliers work. Got my buff from bladed rounds. No slash. There we go, we got one slash, a couple of more slashes, 5,000 and 10,000 slash on the target. The weapon is a lot more powerful such as this, and it's a lot more fun to use as well, simply because, well, higher numbers and of course colored numbers apparently get everybody's panties in a twist. So there you go, you can go for a build such as this. The problem with a build such as this, once again, it kinda needs Argon Scope, but if you don't have Argon Scope, you can even go for something like Hunter Munitions. Oh god, Hunter Munitions, never mind. I mean that meme mod, what's it called? Hammer Shot, yes. Now Hammer Shot will give you 60% critical damage. About the status chance, it doesn't really matter all that much, 40% for a weapon such as this, but the critical damage will definitely help you out with a slash based build. Higher crit damage will mean higher value slashes, of course. 2 shots on the target, that's not gonna be enough, and the 3rd shot, yeah, more than enough. I had like 4 bleeds on it for 10,000 each. It's not a very consistent weapon, but if you want the quote-unquote maximum damage build, then you're gonna have to go through Argon Scope and bladed rounds. And that's pretty much it when it comes to standard builds. One more thing, of course, bump up everything with a Riven, and then we're gonna go to Warframe buffs. Now this one is a loaner from a friend, and it rolled quite nicely. It's a Paris... not a chance, critical damage and multi-shot with a negative of weapon recoil. That negative doesn't really bother me, honestly. You will see that the weapon performs mostly the same, and the critical damage will make a huge difference, and so will the multi-shot. If you're looking for a stat priority for your Paris Prime Riven, multi-shot, critical damage, critical chance, damage. Those are the top 4 in that specific order, and if you can get a negative, that would be fantastic as well. So the ideal Riven, if I could find something like that, would be critical damage, no, multi-shot, critical damage, critical chance, and a harmless negative. Now let's see the power of Dispo 3. Will it make a difference? That is my buff from Bladed Rounds. One shot on the target. Yeah, it does make a difference. Rivens always make a difference. Now, I don't believe that the Paris Prime requires a Riven in order to be a competitive weapon. Definitely not. But as you can see, my one problem with the weapon is that simply it's not as consistent as I would like. I want to know that when I fire that arrow, and if I manage to land exactly what I want the target to die. But there's no denying this is a very powerful weapon. However, it's got stiff competition from the Dread and the Rakta Cernos, which are also fantastic bows. And I do recommend you taking a look at them. Link in the cards right now for the Rakta Cernos, or Rakta Cernos. Anyway, let's bump up everything with Warframe buffs, and for that I'm going to be using my favorite weapon specialist, Lady Mirage Prime. Having a quick look at buffs, we can use something like Rifle Lamp. Rifle Lamp will grant its benefit to bows as well, 27%, but as you can see, 27% isn't honestly that big of a deal, so you don't really have to use this one. You can use your Energy Siphon or your Growing Power, whatever you guys feel like. When it comes to Arcanes, however, these are a lot more impactful, and the best one you can use from my point of view is gonna be Arcane Rage. Now this one will grant you 120% damage to primary weapons, not to rifles, for 16 seconds. You got a 10% chance on headshot, and normally you should get good, if not great, uptime out of this one. When it comes to your second Arcane, I would try with Acceleration, honestly. Just try to get a whole lot more shots out of the bow really quickly. Arcane Acceleration on critical hit, which you have guaranteed, yes, 20% chance for 60% fire rate. So therefore, I'm gonna be able to let loose a whole lot more arrows quicker. We're gonna be unpausing the AI so they can hit me, make a more realistic test and whatnot. Activate Mirage's free ability for a massive damage increase as well as her clones. Of course, it's gonna be a fantastic one-shot. I don't even need to wait for these slashes on some of these targets. Stop moving my targets away, damn it. It's hard enough to aim as it is. Yes, the Paris Prime is a fantastic weapon, but once again, it's got stiff competitions. We got awesome bows in the game. Now, my opinions when it comes to bows is a bit subjective because, well, I love bows. From my point of view, they are the most satisfying weapon type to use in the game. As for the Paris Prime's conclusions, it's a fantastic weapon, I highly recommend it, and yes, it can be a quote-unquote endgame weapon. As always, my name is Malazar, thank you guys so much for watching, like, favorite, share, and subscribe if you enjoy the content. If you have any feedback for me, then by all means, leave it in the comment section down below. Now, I can't guarantee you that it will be done by next time or even within a week, as these reviews do take quite a bit of time to make, but you can also find me on Twitch, Facebook, Twitter, all the usual places. Until next time, guys, bye-bye.